Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Slamhub Wrestling. Myself, Suprit, and this is your AEW Dynamite review for November. I think I forgot the date, Ridwan.
November 17th.
2021. This is the Dynamite after Full Gear. What did you think about this Dynamite, and what did you think about Full Gear?
I thought for a for a fallout from Full Gear, I thought this was a very good show. I mean, all the matches certainly delivered, and it was basically back to your usual Dynamite because, like, for the past couple of weeks, we've been watching more, match heavy shows, but this one was a bit more promo heavy and it did its job, starting up new feuds and continuing some stories, some to their detriment as well. But yeah, the episode was really good. Like, it was enjoyable as it usually is. However, the pay-per-view I thought was solid. I wouldn't call it better than All Out. Like, it was a very good show, mind you. Like, all matches certainly delivered, but I felt that there was a certain spark missing that we got at All Out. Probably the debuts, but that's more of to us being spoiled as wrestling fans. But all in all, like, all matches certainly delivered, so no major complaints on that. But yeah, it was a really good show. What did you feel about it?
I also share the same feeling. Like, I liked All Out. Like, Full Gear was really good, really great, but I think it was slightly down than the All Out pay-per-view because All Out ended in a very, it was a statement making pay-per-view, and this Full Gear pay-per-view was just a small little follow-up.
Hmm. Right.
But what was your favorite match from that card? I was actually torn between the main event and the opener.
Me too, exactly. Like,
If you had
I
to choose one, then what would it
the
be?
the main event for, like, all the story associated with it and how did they perform with all those expectations easily. I mean, not easily, but yeah, the main event was my favorite. The opener was fantastic. MJF and Darby Allen. Then the match I was most looking forward to was FTR and Lucha Bros. The match was great. The finish was, I think it was a little stupid, but understandable given Dax was concussed. And
Really?
yeah, like, there was a news, I think it was by Sean Ross Sapp, or not sure, that there was apparently heat on Phoenix for not checking up on Dax in the middle of the match. Is because that was the reason why Cash had to take the pin, even though it was under a lot more convoluted circumstances. And besides that, yeah. But the rest of the matches also like delivered in the great sense. Some over delivered, like you know Inner Circle versus American Top Team, because I thought it was like a fun breather before you get to the emotional main event, right? So yeah, very good show.
And how can you forget about Punk versus Kingston?
That was, I mean, I didn't forget it exactly, but this match was, I mean, superb. Like, it was just a brutal affair. No wrestling moves and all. It was a brawl. Both guys just hate each other's guts in storyline, of course, and they were just beating the hell out of each other. And then, Eddie's mannerisms of how much he hated Punk and how much he was about to show that. Superb.
We also, did a review for Full Gear. You can, find the links for that in the description below with the rest of the content. Also, make sure to like, share, subscribe to Slam of Wrestling. But shall we get down with this Dynamite show? It
Yes, sir.
was a very wrestling heavy show, if I'm not wrong.
I felt it was a lot more promo heavy because there was
Um,
just so many segments, either backstage or like, in ring, and then there were, like, the matches were already there, but Like the past few weeks, I'd say it was like pretty match heavy. This one I felt was about a bit more promo heavy, but still a great show.
So they kicked off, with the highlights of Full Gear, just a small little package, and then we quickly transition to this small backstage bit with the Elite and Kenny Omega. So if you heard the rumors and stuff, Kenny Omega was kind of discussing his recent injuries. He's a little disappointed with his loss and the rest of the Elites lost at the pay-per-view. And he said something like he's kind of taking time off and he wants the Elite to uh, that there was one line. If can you help me here?
So Kenny, we started off the promo. He's like, yeah, it was a bad night for the Elite. We lost. The entire Elite lost because I mean, even the Bucks lost the match. By the way, that was also an amazing match. And Kenny was like, yeah, I'm disappointed. I think I need some time off to figure things out. Till then, I hope you guys take care of business. And then Adam Cole was like, don't worry, cleaner, I got this. And then Kenny was like, I'm sorry, I was just
I
talking
was
to the
not
Bucks.
talking to you.
I was talking to Bucks, and
Yes.
Cole, like he showed a little bit of disappointment, but then he just carried on normal. I'm like, oh, it's fine, yeah. And then Matt was like, yeah, we got this, Kenny, don't worry. And then they immediately asked Brandon Cutler to cut the footage, and then Nick was like, don't you understand? Just press the red button. So it went from something serious to comic real quick, but yeah, a good promo. Excuse me, a good promo or whatever you want to call it to start off the show. Yeah, it was a promo at the end of the day. Excuse me, I
And
lost my breath there for a while. Sorry.
yeah, you keep breathing, man. Keep breathing. We need air.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. The point I wanted to make across is they are planting seeds. I also mentioned this in the paper review. They are planting seeds for this eventual Elite, breakup. Or the thing is, Adam Cole is the snake in this group, and he is the one who's going to, betray both Kenny and the Bucks.
Yes, but given how the finish was, it was even like Matt. He was like, "Fuck it, just go for the buckshot," and then Hangman wins the championship. So even there was like some sort of betrayal on Matt's behalf as well. So maybe even he'd be, what do you say? Even he'd be contributing to Kenny's exile from the group.
And I think it is a great opportunity now that Kenny is gone. Now things will pick up with this breakup. And who knows, with this Bobby Fish and Adam Cole now being partners for, they will be even having a tag team match. And when December comes around, who knows, who we could see a Kyle O'Reilly come in AEW, and they will be the dominating trios or faction, whatever you call it, in AEW.
I think I've made my feelings pretty clear on that, so I wouldn't repeat that. But if it happens, great. But I wouldn't, I would. It wouldn't be my first choice of happening.
And speaking about Kenny Omega, boy, this guy was. Have you heard the stories? Like he was working injured, not just this past year, but for the last 3 years, and
Mm,
he even had a
vertigo.
problem of vertigo. And I don't know what vertigo is, but I do know that it sucks.
Yeah, like you could see even while he was selling, even he was champion in 2018 during the G1. He was working with an injured heel, and then like he leaves New Japan and then he enters AEW. Even then, he was dealing with some injuries, as far as I remember. Like from the Mox match, I think he took some time off as well to sell the injuries as well as just recover. And after that, the whole story with Hangman kicks off, and from now to this point, I think like his recent injuries goes as far as probably April or May. Even like Meltzer had continuously reported that he was working hurt. Like if you remember, we all were hoping that Hangman would win the championship at All Out, so that Kenny could go heal his injuries. But due to Hangman's unavailability, we had Christian instead, which was fine again. And then he was still working hard. Even as far as like last month, there were reports that Kenny might vacate the championship because of injuries. Like this news came out like after he lost the championship. But like there were executives who were suggesting that Kenny might vacate his championship, but he just wanted to finish his story with Page so that he can just go. I don't want to say ride off into the sunset because that it means retirement. But what I meant was he could go and heal his injuries and come back fresh when he needs to. And that's the thing, like that's he needs rest like so bad. You could see it even in his body, like you could see when Kenny started off in AEW and the Kenny that he saw versus Hangman, there's like a big physical difference. You could say even like he put on a little bit of muscle strength, but more than that, like his form or his style of wrestling had caught up to him for now. Now, if he takes some time off and then returns, we could probably see like a lot more physical improvements in Kenny Omega. I'm not trying to criticize it, but like with all these injuries that he was working with, that has taken a toll on him, and you could see that. That's what I meant.
And the fact that he worked through those injuries
For three
was,
years, for 3 years, mind you.
yeah, that's insane. And the story is that he will be going through multiple surgeries.
Yes, and I think Melzer even said that, like, he had a separated shoulder that he was working with for a while, like leading up to this match. And he didn't have the strength to even lift weights in the gym, which is saying something.
Now, I think he would be missing at least 6 months.
I'd say more, at least. Yeah, but 6 months, with the recent, innovations in medicines, like you are seeing so like these days you're seeing so many of these old wrestlers
Retired.
who had their careers done with because of neck injuries, and then they've been coming back and look like they haven't missed a step. Guys like Edge, Bryan Danielson. Daniel Bryan would have been ideal since he came back in WWE, but Christian Cage, he had a concussion which forced him to retire, and then now he is kicking ass like ever. So yeah, great stuff on those. Even Sting, for that matter, he had like spinal stenosis, had to forcefully retire. He was still like back then when in WWE before he retired, he was 55 and he was still doing those high flying moves. Like I remember he did this one cannonball style senton on DX from the top rope, which looked insane, and he still could go at that time. Now, of course, he is like with age and the recent injuries, he's still like he's lost a bit of step, but still he still looks great in the ring, which is amazing and speaks volumes of how great Sting is.
Well, at least him going out, it will actually not matter to AEW right now because you have the talents to fill in that spot. And you could also bring in new established stars in that top position.
Yes, and it's a rotating roster. If people are taking time off to heal or fight their own personal battles, they can go. The positions are still intact, and when they come back, they won't miss a beat. Rather, we have even Moxley's out right now. You have Omega, and I think these two are the biggest names who are out right now. And once they are back, it's gonna mean a lot. And how are they booked from there? they won't be hurt, because that was the stigma. That's what the stigma was, all these years. Like, people were working hard just so that they couldn't lose their spot. Now that whole stigma is gone, and you can just take time off and come back. Just have a relaxed life as a pro wrestler, which is great.
And that's regarding Kenny Omega and the eventual thing they can do storyline wise with the elite. But we had the celebration of National Cowboy Shit Day here in AEW. So we had the Dark Order in the ring. The ring was all decorated and stuff with a very cowboy themed. And by the way, we are in Virginia, so they introduce the new world champion, that is Hangman Adam Page. He comes out, great hometown pop. And did you see the graphics here that they gave him?
Unnecessary cheap pop.
Yes, and he was wearing Virginia.
Is
What
for
is the shirt
lovers.
called?
Virginia
Yeah,
is for
that was the
lovers.
shirt. That even that got a big pop, and the crowd was saying you deserve it. He said that he didn't deserve it, but he actually earned it. The crowd then started a "you earned it" chant, and suddenly he gets interrupted by Bryan Danielson right on cue. Even Jim Ross mentioned it, and for a while, Danielson was came in, was being the nice guy, congratulated Page, and he said this line that he was kind of disappointed that he's not facing Kenny Omega for the championship, and the crowd then started booing Danielson, and he stayed. And he went into a very full heel mode here, like basically shitting on Page, thinks he's not the top guy, and he made this line that he doesn't even wrestle like Danielson wrestles weekly, Page wrestles rarely on TV. And he even also pointed out that when he won the world championship at WrestleMania, he wrestled the next night. The crowd
He was forced to.
boost.
Yeah, he was forced to defend his championship on the very next night after Mania, but he still used it just to gain heat. I thought it was a bit of genius, with people not knowing the actual thing that happened.
But I, at first, like it's a AEW show. Opening up with a segment and not wrestling, it's a little weird sometimes. But this segment at the end, especially because of Danielson, what he was doing, really came up great.
I'm personally not a fan of this heel turn, but I can sense why they did it. Or probably it must have been Bryan's idea, because, just to get the full support behind Page. And once, eventually, if he beats Danielson, it's going to mean a lot more, because Danielson is like the established household name. Everyone knows him. And Hangman is the new AEW champion. And when Hangman beats Danielson, it's going to mean a lot more, and it's going to put a Page over like so much strong. So I think that, once this happens, like once Hangman defeats Danielson, and then Danielson is going to be like, you proved me wrong. And he's going to shake Hangman's hand, and he's going to go back to his babyface run.
So he was actually, getting into, could say it in typical words, playing mind games with Page. At one point, it really pissed off Page. They got into a, face off and almost got into a brawl. But the Dark Order members, were there to separate the two. So at the end, it was a really good segment. And I don't think it's a permanent thing that Danielson is going ill. I think it's just for this storyline.
Yes, it's just for the storyline. I don't think they should have done the heel turn in the first place. It's like two beloved baby faces, but maybe they wanted to blur the lines a little, maybe just so that they wanted an established, not an established baby face rather, and like someone who is like teetering towards the heel side. When I watched this show pretty late, and I read the spoilers of it. I thought it was just similar to how Danielson was treating Eddie Kingston in the lead up to their match, because he just wanted the best version of Eddie Kingston. He was still a babyface at the end of the day, but now with Bryan's promos and how he was deriding Adam Page all this while, it came off like very, very, very heelish. So there you go. Like now, this is an actual heel versus face feud, and AEW has done like really good face versus face feuds in the past. So this came out of left field, but it's working just because it's Bryan Danielson who's the heel in this story, and he's someone who's a master at being a both heel and a face. So great, good stuff on that part. But we forgot one line by Adam when he said that, yeah, I managed to, like, when Danielson said, I'm a little bit disappointed it's not Kenny Omega who's the champion. And then Adam was like, yeah, I defeated Kenny and I did it in less than 30 minutes, which was a great jab at Danielson, which, which spiraled Danielson out of his mind and then start to go all heel on Adam Page.
And we thought that if you do Danielson versus Page, Danielson being the popular guy would be, you could say, a bigger babyface than Page, but they
Yeah.
did the opposite thing here, which is great.
Yeah, it works. It works on that front, and like I said, it's going to mean a lot more when Hangman defeats Danielson to establish as this credible fighting world champion.
I wonder when they do it.
My guess is probably the Long Island show, but let's see when do they do it.
Can they stretch it out to the new year?
I think it'll lose its charm. If anything, probably Danielson might. What do you say? He, like, at this point, like, I might be spoiling it. I'd say I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but yeah, I'll probably leave it
Well, I,
after we review the match.
yeah, and once this segment was done, they quickly transition into this scheduled match between Dark Order member Evil Uno and Danielson. And the last segment really helped, tell some story in this match as well. The crowd fully hates Danielson. Danielson was, being full heelish, just beating the shit out of Evil Uno. And it was a short little match. Danielson looked dominant, and he won the match with a submission. I think it was a cross face. Like, what happened was Danielson, he hit the running knee. He could have ended the match over there, but he decided to, do the,
Kick his fucking head in.
and he did that, just stormed the hell out of Uno and locked in a sleeper, a dragon sleeper. Not a dragon
Yeah,
sleeper.
Dragon
It's
Sleeper.
a triangle.
No, I think it was a Dragon Sleep. No, it was a triangle.
Some
It was a triangle,
and
right?
just
Because
basically, getting a submission victory. And there you go. They did a little post-match promo with Shivani, and he said something. I don't know. I actually don't remember. Do you remember?
yes, he's like, yeah, I shat on the beloved hometown hero Hangman Page. I'm paraphrasing it over here. Next week, like I sat, like he said, like I sat on Hangman in his hometown of Virginia, and I beat the shit out of Evil Uno. Now next week we are in Chicago. I'm going to beat there is a certain member in Dark Order who's from Chicago, so I challenge you, Cold Cabana, and I'm going to beat the hell out of you. So yeah, kick
Uh,
your head in. Sorry, that was the right verbiage that he used. Like, I'm gonna kick some heads in to the Dark Order. Next week in Chicago, I'm going to kick Colt Cabana's head in. So I challenge you to a match, which is made official for next week. It's a Thanksgiving episode of Dynamite in Chicago, where Bryan Danielson will face Colt Cabana. And now I have a theory on this. So
yeah,
in so this is basically Danielson killing all Dark Order members in their respective hometowns. Because next week he's in Chicago. He's going to face Colt Cabana. The week after that, they're going to be in Georgia. So he's going to face Allen Angels, who's from Atlanta, Georgia. And the week after that, they're going to be in Long Island. So he's going to kick the shit out of John Silver or maybe Alex Reynolds, depends on who takes that spot. And until probably then, if they are able to stretch more than that until the TBS episode, great. Else, I don't know when will they keep it.
But that's actually a great theory, and that's could say really good booking. Heading towards the title match. But this next week's match with Colt Cabana, I almost forgot that he was from Chicago.
I mean, yeah, the only thing that kept him relevant before joining Dark Order was that he's from Chicago and he wrestled in Ring of Honor for so many years. And of course, the whole CM Punk podcast thing, which is also dead in the water right now.
And kind of surprised that we are getting Danielson versus Cabana first before Punk versus Cabana.
I'm not really surprised because, eventually it will happen, but not sure when. Because they still have heat with each other, but when will they address that? God knows.
Pull off a Charlotte and Becky, man. Just do it.
Yeah, let's see. I still feel Becky and Charlotte is a work though.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Let's see, man. I'll be checking out Survivor Series. Let's see how that match works out. But moving on. By the way, one thing I forgot to mention is that Evil Uno's mask was kind of looking like Shark Boy. I don't know why.
Yeah. You're right about that. There was something about Evil Uno's mask that was bothering me. There's something, with the whole teeth thing. There's something similar about this, and then familiar about this rather, and then you just pointed it out pretty well, Shark Boy.
But moving on, they showed the highlights of MJF versus Darby Allen. So they showed a promo with MJF being involved. That was actually a really intense promo. He's actually shitting on the fans, because sort of in that match, we would hear fans were actually kind of cheering for MJF and basically call them marks. And yeah, very intense promo if you ask me.
Oh yeah, totally. There is a point about MJF as a heel. Despite him shitting on the crowd each and every single time, he still is desperate for a little bit of adulation. But once he gets that, he's still going to shit on them, being MJF, that is. And he's like, yeah, I hurt my knee beating Darby, and I took him down with this headlock takeover, which I thought was fantastic. The way they addressed that claim rather. And who I don't care, there are so many great wrestlers in AEW. Oh yeah, and also everyone says that MJF is all good on the stick but not good in the ring. Well, now that how good I am. There, my knees hurt, but this isn't hurt. This is still sharp. And then he just goes on to mention everyone in AEW is the greatest pro wrestlers. Like Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, CM Punk, Eddie Kingston, and so many names. And he's like, nah, I'm the fastest rising star in professional wrestling, and he does his whole shtick. So a very, very good promo. I thought this was one of his best promos ever, I'd say.
We'll be talking more about MJF, but let's talk about Eddie Kingston, man. The name he mentioned. He was in a really good match with CM Punk. They showed some highlights of that match as well. So Shivani was actually being interviewed. Sorry, Shivani was being interviewed. Shivani was
interviewing Kingston.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Kingston is looking fully disappointed. He wants this segment to end quickly. And all of a sudden, he's interrupted by 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. They are just making fun of Kingston here. Kingston is in no mood. and basically shits on Daniel Garcia, who I think he addressed this, that he is a New Yorker, and basically got into the face of Garcia, even brought out the fact that these 2.0 guys call you their son or something like that. And you could be seeing a Kingston Garcia match in the future.
Probably
And also,
next week's Dynamite or Rampage, I'd say.
maybe in the New York show,
Oh, that's going
the
to
Long
rule.
Island show.
That's going to rule so much.
Another thing funny about this segment was Kingston is fully disappointed with this interruption, and now he just wants some catering.
If
I
he
don't know,
was
I can't
if
blame
he
him.
was in another company, that would be his full-time spot, catering.
Does the WWE catering even have people anymore?
Very
That's my
on,
question.
very on. What do you say? On time with that reference. Suprit, good one.
But yeah, Kingston versus Daniel Garcia should be a good little match. We need to get Kingston some wins.
Yes, but I doubt if they're going to stretch that long because Mox isn't there and Darby's busy with his own stuff. So if they want to lead up to Kingston and Garcia at their New York show, they would have to have Kingston wrestle 2.0 and Garcia in some capacity beforehand.
Yeah, basically he needs big wins. Do you even
Yeah,
remember the last singles victory he has had? I'm talking a big one.
Lance Archer would probably count in that because it was in the tournament and it was for a shot at the AEW World Championship.
But I think if you want to establish him as a top guy, he could wrestle rarely, but get him some win.
Yeah.
There you go, man. But moving on, we had Butcher and the Blade versus Chaos members Orange Cassidy and the never openweight champion Tomohiro Ishii
The Stone Pitbull.
and the Stone Pitbull and never openweight champion. Don't forget that he won that championship at the Battle of the Valley show. If I'm not wrong, against Jay White.
Yep.
And small little reference about Jay White. Jay White and Juice Robinson could be mostly leaving New Japan.
Okay. Tell me more.
That's the story, man. Both men could be done with New Japan. The point I want to mention is that would be a big loss for New Japan if Jay White leaves.
Yeah. I mean, Juice seemed like the guy who would stay long term in New Japan when he got his big win versus Cody, and he was the first person in like New Japan's recent history who got like more than a year of extension on his contract, which was a big deal because we thought that New Japan had big plans for him. And whereas his partner David Finlay, he seemed like someone, he was like he had his one foot out of the door because he just sounded like he wanted to leave New Japan. But yeah, Jay White, if he leaves New Japan, it's going to be a huge loss for them because besides him, there isn't any big guys in heel that they have. I'm not going to.
Ospreay.
I know I'm not going to count Osprey in that
Why?
because I don't know why, but like he's the big heel right now because he has a championship, which isn't legally. He's just furthering a story. But I think Jay White was turned dirty in that aspect. He was just given one world title and that's it. They thought it was leading to something big, but it did not.
He actually should have been in the main event picture right now.
Yeah, it was like why was he never champion until in this case? I'd say he should have won the world championship at this year's Wrestle Kingdom this past year's.
Yeah, but yeah, and from that, remember during January time, he was the talk of the town with the match itself, the Tokyo match, and the report that he could be leaving and joining WWE.
No man, he's fucked if he's going there.
I don't think at this point nobody even is thinking about joining that company.
Yeah.
If right, if there was an option, he should have been ringside sitting at a takeover. But NXT is dead. WWE, forget about it. Only option AEW. So yeah, he could go join WWE for the money, but it's not worth it, I guess. With the money.
They'll strip him of everything that made him cool in the first place.
That's the main point. So if he does become a free agent, then AEW could be an option. And remember that they teased something on Impact, and that never happened.
Yeah, that was when Kenny was the champion. They teased it for a while, and then Kenny lost. Kenny lost the belt. So
Yeah, I never got what they were actually trying to achieve with that.
that is your images that were easily forgotten material.
Yeah, but yeah, he could both of those guys, Juice and Jay White, could be going full time with Impact. Who knows?
Let's see what happens. I mean, I would love for Jay to join AEW, but even if he joins AEW, it's still New Japan at the end of the day because they are working together.
We'll have to wait and see. But let's talk about this match. This match was good, you could say. I didn't expect a lot here because yeah, we were expecting Ishii's big debut. We love Ishii, and in putting him in this situation with the HFO was little but this turned out to be a really good match. The crowd was super hot. Loved both Cassidy and Ishii here, and Butcher and the Blade, they are a really good tag team, man.
I'd
Kind
say,
of they
yeah.
feel like little undervalued if you compare the rest of the tag teams.
Yes. I mean, they are mercenaries at the end of the day in kayfabe, but as a team by themselves, they are really they feel like they've improved like a lot in the past 1 year, especially Butcher, because you knew Blade was a pretty decent worker as is from his time in Impact, but Butcher is someone who stepped up, and he's gotten himself in great shape and is a good wrestler now. The clash between Ishii and the Butcher, that was something that I was most looking forward to, because it's the big meaty when slapping meat situation, and I wasn't disappointed in that. I still felt that Ishii was leaving, like it was going a little lighter on his strikes, because of course he wouldn't want to injure his opponent. And in New Japan, they're just going at like 150 kilometer per hour, like a breakneck pace, pun definitely not intended. They're just going on through with each other, just beating the hell out of it. So I thought Ishii was resisting a little, but he was still pretty solid in his offense. And then there was Orange, hitting his like aerial maneuvers on the Blade and Matt Hardy. And I like the finish as well, while Blade was going for his brass knuckles, and Rocky Romero pulls him down, and then like Matt Hardy beats him up, and then Orange hits a crossbody on both Matt Hardy and the Blade, and then Ishii hits the brain buster for the win. So I thought this was a great this was a good match. I felt that Ishii was a little under, like, because of his strikes, I guess, but you felt he was a little underutilized. But again, it worked for him because he picked up the victory for his team, and everyone enjoyed it. I certainly did. You did too. So I think that was the
And
point at the end of the day.
yeah, one thing to point out is Ishii walked out to Where's My Mind by Pixies.
Yeah, that also
And
felt a little out of place, right?
yeah, I just want to ask, what is life? That was crazy to watch. The match was entertaining. Crowd loved Ishii, crowd loved Orange. And you talked about the finish with Ishii hitting the brainbuster on Blade, right?
Yeah. No, it was on Butcher. No, it was
It
on
was on
Blade.
Butcher.
No, it was on Blade. It was on Blade, right? Because Blade was taken out by the crossbody, and then Rocky rolled him in for Ishii to, pick up the scraps for the victory.
And I love the spot where Butcher and Ishii were exchanging, and Butcher is trying his best to knock out Ishii with his forearms, but Ishii, started to get mad, and the crowd started chanting, "You fucked up," and he basically no sold all those forearms. I love that spot.
Perks of having no neck, I guess.
Yeah, and by the way, don't get confused that Ishii is a stone pitbull. He doesn't sell. That is gaming. He sells. When Ishii sells, he is the best seller in the business.
Oh man, like of course, because I mean he's getting hit for real. And of course the reference goes back to his match with Shibata. I think it was the 2013 G1, where the first 2 minutes was just both going hell for leather on each other, beating the shit out of beating the pulp out of each other rather. And then Ishii breaks his jaw in the first 2 minutes of this match. And then there was one sequence where Ishii is lying on the bottom turnbuckle and Shibata is just laying in his forearms on Ishii. So that was also I think it was the same match.
And when he retires, Ishii, it won't matter if he won the world championship or not. At least he came out to Where's My Mind on a national television.
He came out on national television. That itself is something. Long live 1 for 1.
So basically, it's confirmed that they are trying a faction versus faction deal with Chaos and HFO.
Yes, about that. I hope. I don't know when will they end this Orange Cassidy and Matt Hardy feud. Just get over it.
And now it's a faction versus faction deal. I'm little, not. I don't want Okada to be put into this situation.
Exactly. I was going to say the same thing. It'll be very wasteful of using Okada in this situation of just, going after fucking Matt Hardy. If you're bringing in Okada, you should just keep him next to guys like Danielson, Page. I would have said Kenny, but he's off. So, I mean, he's probably off.
Yeah, we'll hopefully see that match by next year.
No, for sure. If
but
if things heal up, probably even Danielson and G1, man. Fuck yeah.
screw the G1. I want Danielson. I think they will do Danielson versus Ishii on TV.
Yes, hell, even Ishii versus Miro on TV.
Like a lot of options there, but we'll have to wait and see. But Ridwan, we are getting a eight-man tag, I think, on the next edition of
Yes.
Dynamite. So this is Death Triangle and Cody Rhodes facing Malakai Black, Andrade, El Idolo, and FTR. So they were trying to build this match with a bunch of backstage interviews, promos, whatever you call it. So thoughts on this one?
I've lost interest in this feud because I mean, especially with Andrade and Death Triangle, because I feel it's going on for far too long. But besides that, this match is going to rule regardless because of all the talent involved. And now they're just picking on Jose for no reason. Poor guy. And
you should be happy that Jose was alive after the paper.
Oh, for sure. And after that, even Tully Blanchard is at least I'm sticking my nose where it's at. At least I'm not Jose. And I mean, I don't know what else can I say about this. It's just, I mean, this match is going to be fun. That's about it. Just the feud is, I feel, is just going a bit too long for my taste.
What are they doing with Cody Rhodes?
That's like a mystery that we don't know because every week we are like, oh, is he turning heel now? Oh no, he's not. He's just normal Cody Rhodes. Is he turning heel? Oh no, it's just this. So it's like a slow burn, probably, but God knows when will they finally pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, because I think we're getting into the phase where the rest of the guys is involved with the feud. For example, Malakai or Andrade. You're going to bring those guys down.
Hmm. I still don't get the partnership between Cody and Park. Like I know it's the whole the enemy of my enemy is my friend situation. And even Park said in his promos like after Full Gear we are done. I don't like you and I don't want to be around you. But now we're back to this bullshit.
Really
But
confusing.
I mean
It's not
even
bad.
yeah, it's
It's not
not
bad.
bad.
I would say this, like they have mixed all this, you could say, stories into one. So technically that should be the culmination of everything, and you should move on to whatever you were doing in the past.
Yes, and they're also leading up to the Triple Mania match between FTR and Lucha Bros for the AAA Tag Championship.
But do you expect a rematch for the AEW tag belts
At least
with
not now.
FTR?
At least not now, but they have a valid reason why they should be getting a match now.
So is that the legit story with Dax Harwood getting concussed?
Yeah, and there was like a picture that he posted the next day. He's like, I have to take family pictures, and then there was like a big bump on his head.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So I don't know. I think it's time we could put in other top tag teams in the going against Lucha Bros.
Yeah, and like given that he's able to jump back into the ring for a match, it's like a mild concussion, but it was still scary nonetheless, knowing that it happened. And yeah, I feel like if this match happens, especially like the one at Triple Mania, that's going to be for the AAA championship. And now there might after that there might be a point where both championships will be on the line and there will be only one super team.
Speaking about Triple Mania, I've heard the story that Triple A is being threatened by some mafia.
Yes. They had to cancel one of their shows leading up to Triple Mania because of that.
Bring in Arn Anderson to save the day, I guess. One Glock is enough.
Yes, the Glockman himself, Arn Anderson, Armed Anderson. Uh, have you watched the Road to episode this past Wednesday?
I actually missed this week.
Oh, so they were running this segment with Baron von Raschke being there in the crowd, and then
Who's that?
he's an old NWA legend.
Uh-huh.
So he was the one who clawed Ethan Page, if you remember.
Yes.
So Victoria Schiavone was basically marking out saying that I growing up as a wrestling fan, I was a huge fan of Baron von Raschke, and then he's like, yeah, all the old NWA guys were also there, so it felt like a reunion in itself. And there was Tully Blanchard meeting him, and then there was Arn also. It's like, yeah, we are all still in this business, and we'll thank Baron von Raschke for being an integral part of our careers. And there was like when Arn hugs him, there's like a T-shirt that literally says "Armed Anderson."
I think we have to get that shirt, man.
Yeah, it's like probably like we should do something branded like in terms of Slamhub wrestling and like an Arn meme or something because we talk about this Armed Anderson thing like far too much. So we should probably issue a T-shirt for that.
That's a great idea. But moving on, we had a interview with Doctor Britt Baker, the MD. Siobhan is interviewing her. She is talking about the title defense with Ty Conti, and she's tired basically of carrying this division and wants to put the focus on the TBS championship. And she said that her partner Jimmy Hater is the inaugural will be the inaugural TBS champion. Shivani jumps in that she's facing Thunder Rosa, So, say that there is a chance Thunder Rosa comes out as the winner. So Britt gets annoyed by that. The fact that Thunder Rosa was brought up in this situation. Basically, they kind of sprinkling some seeds here as well. So I think they are ready to jump into this Thunder Rosa Britt Baker feud.
Yeah, but that means Thunder Rosa is winning, either Thunder Rosa is losing due to a bit bigger interference versus Jamie Hater, or Thunder Rosa is winning next week and losing to Jade Cargill through an interference from Britt Baker. So it's happening, but not sure when exactly.
That's the same situation I'm kind of predicting. You could have Thunder Rosa beat Jamie Hater, then you could do the interference, some similar to that, but I think they're ready to go with Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker because as of now you don't have anyone left on that division.
Any
Thunder
top
Rosa is the
top
only one
rank
left.
female, yeah, on top
Yeah,
rank.
and we are actually waiting for this, because the Britt Baker feud she has had some decent enough matches, but we need some good story.
Yeah, I felt even at her match at Full Gear, I thought Ty Conti looked so much better in the ring than Britt Baker. And this is not a knock on Baker. It's just that Ty got a chance to shine more than her.
Yeah, the whole intention of that match was just get Ty Conti over, like show the people that she's ready actually
Hmm.
to be a star, maybe get a title opportunity, sorry, a title reign under her belt. So I think she has proven that, and she will get better. Uh, at least by when 2022 comes around, who knows? She could get a TBS championship ring.
Yes, man, that Gotch pile driver was sick though.
That she hit at the pay-per-view.
Yeah,
That is Suzuki influence.
yeah.
But we'll have to wait and see. But we have a TBS Championship tournament match on Dynamite here this week. This is Hikaru Shida facing Nyla Rose. They brought up the fact that both I think Nyla Rose has 50 wins under her belt, while Shida is at the 51 mark. So they brought up that fact as well. So this was actually a decent enough match, man. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I thought this match was great because it showed that Nyla Rose has improved like tenfold since AEW started, and like she is someone who deserves a lot more in the division. Whereas you had someone like Hikaru Shida, who is also fantastic and by herself, and also getting Nyla Rose over as this, dominant, credible person to advance to the next round. And it also worked with Hikaru Shida's injury, and also her feud with Serena Deeb, which is still continuing, which is great that they are. And yeah, that's all probably I have to say as of now.
And I have to say, man, have you checked out Nyla Rose on Twitter?
No, I'm pretty much updated with her right now.
And I have to say, Nyla Rose's Twitter game is top notch.
I'd say it's the best in AEW, like easily top three or top five, but yeah, one of the best. Top three is like a
Yeah.
great this thing.
And on that note, I have to say that Nyla Rose's Twitter game is way better than the entirety of Queen's Crown tournament. Another one.
Yes, just did the Michael Scott
Um,
thing.
but like you said, this match was really good, and they were telling the story of Shida's injured knee, and we also got the involvement of Serena Deeb. She actually kind of took a cheap shot on Shida, but the one thing I liked was the bit they did with Vicky Guerrero.
Hmm.
Like she was actually trying to she actually prior to this spot was used the kendo stick on Shida. He was trying to choke her out, and she was trying to do the same thing here, but Shida had it scouted, and Vicky Guerrero actually decided to escape and run away, but she tripped and fell. Shida took a good kendo stick shot on Vicky Guerrero. That was a really good spot. Classic,
Just
wrestling
before
bit
that,
with the heel.
yeah, just before that, the crowd was chanting "Shut up, Vicky," while she was just instructing Nyla Rose on what to do.
This crowd was hot actually in Virginia. It was a small crowd, but it was hot enough.
Yeah.
But as we get to the final parts, they were trying to go for their big signature moves. What happened was Nyla Rose missed a big senton, which actually looked awkward and it had to suck for Nyla.
Yeah,
And
the chair
as
spot, right?
even the you just I was talking about the final part. Now that you mentioned about the chairs, for that also looked brutal as well.
The
Which I
chair
think
fucking
Nyla was
broke.
about, it almost collapsed, man.
It did collapse, not almost.
So as we get to the final parts, Shida was going for some knee strike. Nyla catches her with the stretch muffler actually, and Shida had to give up. So Nyla is advancing. So Nyla Rose will be facing the winner of Thunder Rosa and Jamie Hater, if I'm not wrong.
No. She's facing the winner of Ruby Soho versus Chris Statlander.
And that match has happening on this Rampage or next week on Dynamite.
No, they didn't announce Ruby Soho versus Chris Statlander just yet. This week on Rampage, we have Jade Cargill versus Red Velvet, and next week on Dynamite, we have Thunder Rosa versus Jamie Hater.
Okay, so who do you think is winning with Jade Cargill and Red Velvet? Jade Cargill, right?
There is no other option.
Or they gave Red Velvet her victory, finally beating Jade Cargill.
They kind of have to, but probably it takes all the mystique away from Jade Cargill, who isn't very established herself. Like, she's still green, and despite her undefeated streak, she's still trying to prove herself. If anything, this TBS championship is a way to define what she is.
We'll have to wait and see. But shall we talk about MJF once again? He had a in-ring interview this time. Came out with Wardlow and who's the other guy? Sean
Sean
Spears.
Spears, the story of his life.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm not discrediting Sean Spears. I almost forgot who he came out with. But
Yeah,
he had an in-ring
his
interview.
his
You were
two
saying something.
his two accountability buddies.
That's actually hilarious. The nickname given by MJF. So MJF is, I think he was not actually interested in talking for a while. Seeing the crowd reaction he was getting, and he decided to give Sean Spears the mic. And MJF was, when he actually decided to get the mic, he was talking about beating Darby Allen at Full Gear, and now he wants that world title opportunity. Also mentioned about this bidding war that could happen at 2024. I almost get concerned when he all brings up that fact.
Yeah, 2024. Like, probably that's when his contract is ending.
He's resigning.
Yeah, I mean, he is easily like resigning. You mean resigning with AEW, right? Like, extending
Yeah, I
his
think
contract. Yeah.
he won't be jumping ship just to talk with Bruce.
Yeah, yeah, and his gimmick in that sense is very much like ECW Rob Van Dam. Like, Rob Van Dam in ECW, he used to call himself Mr. Monday Night, while I think ECW was also on Mondays. And then he's like, yeah, he used to also call himself Mr. Pay Per View. And then he was like, fuck this company that I'm working for. I'd be better elsewhere. While he still shows up to work in ECW and just having the best match. So this is exactly that. Whatever MJF is doing is Rob Van Dam in ECW.
So, other than the bidding war, he's talking about getting a world title opportunity, but the ranking says something else. And there was a line from the commentary team that this is a guy who wrestles three
Three
times a
times a
year,
year.
which actually makes sense. That's why he's not being ranked higher.
Yes, I like the. I think it was Excalibur who said it. It would have been
Is he even
hilarious.
ranked, by the way?
I don't think so. Probably like just below top 5 or something. I have to
Yeah.
check that.
So, and you even said that if we had intention, he could get a world title shot right now. Talking about Hangman Page, he said he could take a big cowboy shit on his title reign.
Uh,
And as the
just before we head into that, I just remembered something. You remember like few years ago when sorry, few weeks ago when there was something like MJF was supposed to do, like he was supposed to cut a promo or something, and Tony Schiavone was like starting off the show. He was just running down the card, what's going to happen, and then he had to talk about MJF, and then we have MJF Act 2 having his promo or something. You remember that?
you did that.
Yeah, he did that.
I don't actually remember that, but I do know that every week Shivani hits MJF's guts. Now the entire commentary team is jumping into that equation. It is funny for me. I don't
Yeah.
think what other people think about it.
Yes, even like at the start of this promo, like when MJF was coming out to his entrance team, and then Excalibur is like, yeah, and now we have this misfortune of having to listen to this prick named MJF.
While and I think Excalibur and Shivani are against MJF. Jim Ross is the one who actually puts him over, I guess.
No, I mean, they still put him over despite him being a heel. He's like, this son of a bitch, this bastard rat, but he's still a good technical wrestler, so that's good. But fuck him.
So shall we get to this the other part of this segment?
Yes, please.
Yeah, another part I forgot is while MJF is cutting his promos, Sean Spears was having a candy bar.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, you could see him sitting in a chair, and the other side of the camera is just enjoying this candy bar. He asked with the Wardlow would, like to have some. Wardlow, okay, I'm good, something like that. But let's talk about the second part. Like we hear cult of personality hit. All of a sudden, CM Punk walks out, and his body language, Punk's body language was basically this. He was like this throughout this segment, makes his way down to the ring very slowly, gets into the ring, and MJF is the one who offers a handshake. Hi, I'm Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Punk laughs and just walks away, and the crowd was loving this, the small interaction that MJF and Punk had. Even we even got a holy shit chant because we knew what's up. So Punk decided to no sell this handshake. He walks off. Music hits again. This is basically your small teaser, man. And I loved the fact that Punk didn't utter a single word.
Yeah, it's basically kind of like a master versus apprentice situation, even though, both are pretty polar opposites in terms of their gimmicks at the moment. Because Punk is like this experienced veteran who has talked shit to people in the past and got away with it himself. And, Punk also learned it the hard way. Like he was humbled with all his experiences. MJF is starting in the same way as Punk is, and MJF hasn't had that, veteran kicking his ass veteran veteran kicking his ass moment just yet.
And all I have to say is I'm pretty excited for this program.
Me too, man. The promos, like everyone was anticipating for it to eventually happen sometime, just simply for the promos alone. And now that we've gotten like MJF is improved like leaps and bounds in the ring over the past year. So the match itself is also going to be fantastic.
So I actually have a theory. MJF, so we have this Long Island show, right? Dynamite. I want MJF to do the CM Punk debut parody over there
Debut
in Long
parody.
Island.
Oh, okay. The CM Punk AW debut, you mean?
Yeah, he
Ah,
has to do the same thing, jump in
yeah.
the crowd, something like that.
Yes. You remember like when Punk was about to debut, how everyone was just fantasy booking for it to be, a very WWE-esque thing. Like the cult of personality hits and MJF shows up just to get heat, or like doesn't happen and MJF just shits on it, yada yada. This you can do it somewhere, probably next week in Chicago, where CM Punk's music hits and then MJF just comes out for the heat thing. You could actually do that next week and just forget all the fantasy booking shit that you had done in the past.
But my main question is now the MJF Punk program is upon us. Do you have this match eventually happens? Is MJF the one to beat CM Punk in AEW?
Probably because it'll give him a big rub. Um, you know, someone like who's still up and comer despite being an established name in AEW, and also CM Punk is like he's also leaning towards a more darker side of him for a while. So you could probably do that. Like Punk loses his focus in terms of just teaching this youngster a lesson, and then MJF takes advantage of that. Something like that you could do.
Hey,
I mean, I'd be fine either way. Even if Punk wins, great. If MJF wins, great. I'm just enjoying the feud. I will enjoy the feud rather.
I would love if they do something like if you could have Punk beat MJF, then you get into a situation you do Wardlow versus Punk, and you could give Wardlow the win.
And then MJF gets jealous.
Something like that.
Yeah, that would be a good way to get around it. And speaking of MJF and Wardlow, like recently them having an argument that was under Hangman Adam Page's tweet.
Like like fill me in. Like what happened?
So you must have seen like Hangman's press release as declaring the day as National Cowboy Shit Day. And after
Uh,
that, he's like, I am a fighting champion. I want to defend against all comers except for Wardlow's muscle takes. And then Wardlow just quote tweets that with this emoji. And then MJF is like, what did I tell you about the thinking emoji? You should not use it before my permission. And then people were
hmm.
filling MJF with those. You remember the video that of him dancing with Max Caster?
You actually sent me that.
Yeah, and people were replying that to MJF. I'm like, is this you? And then it's with MJF's theme instead.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see, man. We'll have to wait and see. I'm pretty excited for this program, like I said before.
Yep. And it's going to be fun for the promos alone, but the match is certainly going to over deliver based on expectations. Because despite his great showings, MJF, like people still consider MJF as like the guy with who's good on the mic. He's proving himself again and again of how great he is in the ring. But I think this match with Punk is going to show, like, everyone else how great MJF is.
But moving on, and I am, like I said in the beginning of this review, I'm actually interested in this one. So I think they are building towards still continuing with this SuperKLIQ, Jurassic Express Christian Cage deal. So the SuperKLIQ are actually disappointed with their loss at the pay-per-view. So they actually want to get rid of Jurassic Express. So I think we are getting a tag match at Rampage this week with Bobby Fish and Adam Cole facing the Jurassic Express. And there you go. That's the whole story. And like I said, they are planting the seeds for this dissension within the elite. And Adam Cole is the one who spearheads it with a potential arrival of his other best friends.
Yeah, it's going to be good if it happens. But yeah, I was more leaning towards the theory of Kevin Steen, but now we're still unsure if he's continuing or is he leaving WWE.
I don't know, man. I don't know. If they give him a sudden WWE title reign, then that could be something else. If not, he is joining AEW. Hands down.
Should happen.
And yeah, and by the way, I think Jurassic Express are bound for a title opportunity against the Lucha Bros.
That could happen sooner or later, but let's see how do they get to it.
So that match is happening at Rampage. But let's talk about this other tag match we have on Dynamite. It's Leo Rush and Dante Martin against the Acclaimed. I have to say that this partnership with Leo and Dante, they actually make a entertaining tag team.
It's finally clicking. Like after ever since Leo actually started wrestling in the tag matches, and now we have like he's having a lot of goodwill behind him. After his recent family tragedy, everyone is starting to love Leo a lot more, and the association with Dante is also helping in that aspect. So great stuff on that. A bit. I mean, due to outside factors, but great because Leo Rush is finally like even with his performances in the ring and especially in this match, he's finally getting his due. Everyone like thanks to his WWE run, people remember more for his fuck ups more than how talented he was on the ring and on the mic. But now, like the perceptions are changing, which is great. And I personally love Leo Rush in the ring. I think he's like a great talent in the ring, a bit curtailed by his perceived attitude issues backstage, but he's admitted to those things, and now he's always trying to improve on that and become a better person.
He's a cool dude at the end of the day.
Yeah, I feel like he's come a long way in that aspect. Like he's also been humbled for his own troubles, and he always seems like the guy who's learned from those mistakes and come back even stronger, and he's done that in the past. He's done it again right now, and he's still kicking ass and looking strong. Great stuff to see.
This tag match was good, I guess, with the Acclaimed. It was very competitive. And did you check out the rap by the Acclaimed? It was not your best, you could say rap they have done, but it was good enough, taking jabs at Leo Rush, saying that he could have been better off being a manager, and they took a little shot with Dante Martin as well. So yeah, that was pretty much it.
Yeah, like that was the only moment in this promo because whenever they go, especially like the last line is often killer, it was very cheap with what he delivered because like
Yeah, not
mm,
the
not the best
best raps they have done.
yeah, which is saying something about the Acclaim because they've been so brutal on the mic on their opponents that you expect a lot more these days, and that's
Yeah,
a good thing to have big expectations from them, being the talent or being placed where they are on the card.
and the wrestling aspect is also getting better when it comes to the Acclaim.
Yes, like especially with Bowens, who's gotten a lot more time to shine in the past couple of weeks. So he's also getting there. And Caster, I mean, he's not your best worker, but he's also who's constantly improving every week.
And his main forte is the rap bit.
Yeah, that's what sells the Acclaimed.
So the match here was the tag match was really good. Crowd loved every bit of it. And I have to say the Dante Martin moonsault finish he does is actually really great.
Yes, about that though, like he does it superbly. I just don't think it should be his finisher.
I don't mind moonsaults being a finisher.
But yeah, like not the like on a standing opponent. Probably if the opponent was like lying down, prone to like
Um, yeah, but you don't want to bang up your knees.
probably.
But anyways, really good tag match. The baby faces get the win with the moonsault press and the big
Yeah, the
frog
dragonfly.
splash.
Yeah, they used to call it the dragonfly splash in while Leo was wrestling in 205.
Was it the dragonfly or the
I mean, it was a
final
frog
hour?
splash. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was the final hour as well. Like initially, they used to call it the Dragonfly Splash, if I'm not mistaken. This was before he became Lashley's manager. Like he was still wrestling on 205 Live, and then it became the final hour. Yeah, but it's still a beautiful move that he executes. I mean, it's a move
Yeah,
that
the
he
way
executes beautifully. My bad, but you get my
yeah, the
point.
way the way he hits it is the visual is actually great.
Yes, and like his moveset is also like really, really good. Like he has the pace to back up all his maneuvers, and he's a good striker as well. I like the the small combination that he does with the slaps, kicks, and then the forearms, and then I think he stopped doing the springboard stunner that he used to do because that injured him at Double or Nothing, and then that which forced him into retirement.
Wow. I hope he doesn't retire again.
Yeah, me too. Like even fucking Caster mentioned that on the buy-in while he was rapping to Dante.
Well, I think Max Caster ran out of material for this rap. Now that you say.
Yeah, right.
But anyways, everyone loves the Acclaimed, and they have been being featured a lot in a consistent basis for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, everyone loves the Acclaimed indeed.
But let's move on. Oh, wait, I'm actually spearheading. We had a lot more. We had a little post-match bit here following this match. So we had Team Taz coming out. We had Taz, Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Hook, the Crook himself. He also made his presence. So the thing is that Team Taz is trying to recruit Dante Martin. They also said that talk with Leo Rush. You are a great businessman himself yourself. You know what's best for you and Dante Martin. So I think this is another chance for Dante. Should he join Team Taz or not? So here you go.
They've given him a long rope. Like you take your time, think about it, but do join us. And it's like a story. Everyone loves Dante Martin now because you had Seidels who he was training with and helping him grow. Now you have Leo Rush who's investing money in him and making trying to make him a star. You also have now Team Taz who is after his services just to bolster their ranks and also the impending return of his brother Darius Martin. So everyone loves Dante Martin.
Hey, I think have they dropped the bit with Leo Rush and cryptocurrencies?
They did. I mean, his gimmick is that, and while he was doing his entrance, that itself said LBO Leo, which is his whole crypto stick. And yeah, just hoping Darius comes back and they make a trio with Leo Rush and do some stuff.
We'll have to wait and see, but we got to see Darby Allen on this Dynamite. He had a little promo segment. He was being interviewed by why do I forget the name of this interviewer?
Tony
It
Schiavone.
is it's not Tony Schiavone. It's the other
It
guy.
Alex Marvez. No, it was Tony Schiavone.
No, it was Alex Marvez, I guess.
It was Tony Schiavone too.
Who would be Alex Tony? So he's being interviewed and says that Darby Allen wants some competition, and and he also mentioned MJF that he would love another rematch against MJF in the near future, but he wants competition for now, and is interrupted by Gun Club. Billy Gunn, being the leader of this conversation here, he actually challenges Darby Allen to a match, and took a little shot at Darby Allen and walks away. Same with Colton Gunn, and even who's the other
Austin.
Gunn?
Austin.
Austin Gunn also. Austin Gunn had made a little hilarious, could say line with the "I love turtles" bit with Darby Allen, which I had to laugh, man. It was cheap, but I had to laugh.
Yeah, I mean Darby himself copses while he was talking to Shivani, and then he's like, and then they just end the segment right there. So
So yeah, we are getting
you could do the Darby copsing sent for the man meme over here.
Yeah, so we are getting Billy Gunn versus Darby Allen.
It's the most
So yeah,
random
man.
match. It's the most random match happening in 2021, but Billy Gunn can still fucking go in the ring. Like you see him on Dark or Elevation, he's still kicking ass, Mr. Ass himself.
No pun intended.
Definitely not.
Absolutely not.
And also like the size disparity because Gunn is fucking jacked and Darby is like this little, and how Darby wins the match remains to be seen, but still great stuff.
Coffin drop on the ass.
Yes, please. But it should lead to like the legendary streak of Colton Gunn versus Darby Allen, right?
Yeah, I'm waiting for that to be brought up on television. And please, someone bring that up to Tony Khan.
Yeah, they're not even seated in the rankings, dude. What the fuck?
I don't know. I don't know. But shall we get to the main event?
Yes, please.
It is for the TNT Championship. We have Sammy Guevara facing
Yes.
the newly debuting Jay Lethal. Before we talk about this match, what did you think about this signing, man?
It's a great signing for AEW because it was eventually going to happen because Lethal was one of the top stars in Ring of Honor, and it was only a matter of time before he went somewhere in either WWE, Impact, or even Ring of Honor. Yeah, sorry. Back to Ring of Honor was probably a good big shout because they're not doing the permanent contracts anymore, so you would have just wrestled for them as it is. But like yeah, it was like I said, it was only a matter of time before he showed up anywhere, and AEW was like the first people to jump on that. What do you say? Jump on that train to sign him. But
AW is the only ones who will jump into that situation.
mhm. but I thought even Impact would be interested in that because Lethal has some history over there, and now with the new and better management compared to the time he was fired from Impact, so there is like a heaven and earth. No, yeah, no, it's like a heaven and earth situation over there because like it's entirely different, and they'd love to have him. Lethal would have gone there; it could have been fine. Like the signing is great for AEW, but I'm not a very big fan of Jay Lethal, but I do enjoy his work. So good signing for them.
Yeah, it was high time he got picked up by a big company with national television exposure. He's just floating around for the last 10 years, 15 years, whatever the time be that he has spent in this industry. So I think it
19
was
years.
time he got a big contract.
Yeah, 19 years. But Impact was also in that similar lieu in a way because even they were number two for the longest time before they cut their own legs from underneath. They kicked the leg from their under their leg. Owen Hart reference.
I think you messed up that reference.
No, it is an actual reference. Like when Owen turned on Brett in '94, he was like, "I kicked Brett's leg from under his leg." That
Ah,
was a line he actually said it. So
so yeah, man. And by the way, have you heard the certain Twitter section is mad with Jay Lethal being picked up by AEW?
yeah, I mean it's for the reasons that I completely expected them to. And speaking of which, even Briscoes were backstage during the show. So yeah, there are rumors that even they might be signed soon.
And that thing makes me happy because Briscoes are really good, and I think even they, in the same situation with Jay Lethal, need a big contract. It's about time.
Yes. But who else? Like, that's a discussion for another time and something we already have touched upon in the past.
They they picked up Jay Lethal, Briscoes. I think that's enough. Those are your core Ring of Honor guys that you wanted to sign.
Only Gresham is left now.
Gresham, yeah, you could pick him up eventually, but he's starting his own promotion, I guess.
Yeah, something like Prestige Wrestling, if I'm not wrong.
Some grappling wrestling, something like that.
Mhm. Interesting.
And even Seth Rollins, did you see the tweet by Seth Rollins? He was actually,
JG.
put over. Yeah, that's pretty dope for Jonathan Gresham, if you ask me. But in terms of Briscoes coming in eventually, I love that. And with the signing of Jay Lethal, I was a happy man when he came out at a full year. I was as happy as little girls looking at their mothers. I
Woo.
had to put in that line.
Yeah.
But anyways, man. Anyways, this match with Jay Lethal and Guevara, pretty good if you ask
Really
me.
good. Really
And
good match.
you realize why Jay Lethal was Ring of Honor World Champion, seeing this performance.
Hmm. Yeah, longest reigning Ring of Honor champion in combined reigns.
Let's talk about the highlights. So they are going in a fast pace from the get-go. Lethal was going to finish off Guevara with the lethal injection. I love that move,
Me
but
too.
disappointed that we didn't get to see it.
Yep.
Uh, so that was actually countered by Guevara. He was actually looking for the GTH. Then we see some great wrestling, and crowd is loving it from the get-go. So I think the story was Guevara's injured ribs, I guess, from the
Hmm.
full gear match.
Yep.
And during the commercial, he was actually, taken out. He was being checked out by the medical staff and stuff. So he decided to make, the referee had the option to, end the match, but he decided to, still continue on with it. And even Jay Lethal was being, a little generous, against, he was a little concerned for Guevara. Guevara actually decided to slap Lethal and piss off Lethal intentionally. So Lethal decided to just lay it on and just beat the shit out of Guevara. So we see a big table spot where Guevara was going for a senton, but Lethal, moved out of the way. Back in, Lethal was going for another lethal injection that is countered. So Guevara is in the offense. He's hitting several knee strikes, and he was actually eventually going for the GTH, but he is not able to pick lethal here. Even failed at hitting a shooting star press. Lethal counters it with getting the knees up. So I said with the knee strikes, he's hitting one after another. Then finally hits the GTH for the victory. And there you go, man. Guevara is still the TNT champion. Another, I love that. I love the fact that they actually put him in the main event.
Hmm. That was a great way to close out the show, and it means something because it's the championship that is on the line. It should always be the case. Yeah, I mean, this match was great from start to finish, and like the big table spot was also a bit. I felt a bit cringe when it happened because Guevara is selling those injured ribs, and he sold it really well, mind you. And
Yeah,
like you said, you couldn't have said it any better. Like now you can see the reason why they brought in Jay Lethal for his wrestling mainly. And yeah, I mean, also puts Guevara over strong in a way. Was this was probably his best the best version of Guevara that we've seen since becoming TNT champion, or his best title defense rather so
yeah,
far.
and lot to talk about. But one of the things I wanted to bring up is, after the match, Inner Circle came out. You had to plug in Jericho somewhere in this show, right? Right. So he came out. He's raising the hand of Guevara. The Inner Circle, celebrate. They also we had a moment with Guevara and Lethal. They did a handshake. At the end, the show goes up the air with the baby face. All the baby faces celebrating in this situation. And weirdly enough, Jay Lethal was being embraced by the Inner Circle. For 1 second, I thought, can he join the Inner Circle?
Not so soon. Probably, they need a story to get to it.
Yeah, but after seeing this performance, what do you think? Jay Lethal being used as a potential main eventer or being a good hand?
I mean, for now, I think he'll be a good hand. and he'll slowly climb up the ranks when required, and then get his opportunities here and there. But how do they take it from that? Leaves. That's up to how Tony uses him later. But so far,
And
in starting off is a good hand.
and do you think, I asked Abby this question in the Full Gear review, do you think this bit with American Top Team is over?
I hope it is.
It came off at it came off as it is over seeing this Dynamite show, or I think we could have gotten at least one reference of it on the show, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was only commentary who was just talking about the match itself. There was nothing more than that.
Yeah, and I hope Men of the Year don't get lost in the shuffle now that you have dropped this. When hopefully drop this storyline.
Yeah, probably, just put them in the tag picture again. I get them some wins and face Lucha Bros eventually.
That would make sense. But I have a feeling, I think in a couple of weeks, Guevara drops the TNT Championship.
To who?
To another top heel or a top guy.
Are there any? Besides, I don't know, Miro is the only one that I can think of right now.
You can give it to Park.
But Park is still a babyface, and he still has a shit with Cody and Death Triangle. Cody and Lucha Bros. So that's something that's happening. And I don't see Park, at least for now, because there are whatever they do with Cody, and after the match, the ramifications, how do they have to deal with? So I don't see Park.
No, with this, the way AEW builds their stories, now the story is Guevara's injured ribs. If they continue on with that, a bit, I think he eventually drops it to someone.
I kind of hope it's Miro again, simply because of how great the reign was.
Hey, Adam Cole could be great.
Yeah, but even he has his stuff with the But yeah, I wouldn't be against that either.
We'll have to wait and see, man. We'll have to wait and see. But that was the entirety of Dynamite. And anything you want to add before we get the hell out of it?
No.
So where can these guys find you?
So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @Rid_Aman. And if you're watching this in video form, you can see it somewhere in the bottom corner of your screen.
And you can find Slamhub Wrestling on Twitter at SlamHubW, Instagram at Slamhub Wrestling. You can catch this review on audio platforms like Spotify and Anchor as well. This was the AEW Dynamite review, and we'll see you guys next time.
Ciao.